It's Friday, the 4th of May, and this is your EV News Daily. Happy Star Wars Day, by the way. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're listening around the world. A very warm welcome from London in the UK. And here is today's news about electric cars and the future of transport. My name is Martin Lee, and I go through every EV article online, so you don't have to. Coming up on today's show, Kia unveils the Niro by surprise. We go inside the Rimac factory. Oh, and so much Tesla to deconstruct and unpack, and farewell Flufferbot. But first of all, there was another big auto event in the last few hours, and it wasn't Tesla's Q1 results. It was VW's AGM. Now, Tesla has a market capitalization. Tesla's worth $48.2 billion US dollars. And I mention that for a reason, and I'll come back to that in a moment. Now, shortly after Tesla's Q1 results and a really strange earnings call, which you and I will get onto later, VW signed some battery contracts. And let me put this out there. Every single article to the one that I read today talked about Tesla's share price going down today, losing value, investors really annoyed with Elon Musk's attitude on the investor call. Let me throw something your way, which it's not the whole reason that Tesla took a bit of a hit today, but I haven't seen it mentioned anywhere, and it's kind of an interesting thing to talk about and think about from people who have a lot of money on the line and keep up to date with all the news, not just what Elon Musk is doing. Well, just after the Tesla announcement of their Q1 results, VW also had something to say about battery contracts for battery supply and associated technology, and it was worth way more than was previously announced. In fact, it was worth double what was previously announced. VW Group just said they have contracts in place worth 40 billion euros. That is 48 billion US dollars. And what did I just say Tesla's worth right now? That's right. VW signed purchase contracts for just one part of their electric cars worth the whole of Tesla. Autos, Tesla Energy combined, everything. And my mind is still a little bit blown. And sure, it's coincidental that Tesla lost a bunch of value today, so they've gone down to 48 billion, and that's exactly the amount that VW signed battery contracts for. But in that context, I mean, it's the same number. My mind is a little bit blown. By 2025, VW is going to sell 3 million pure electric cars every single year, and the year after that, and the year after that. And they need the batteries. Well, the Chief Executive Officer, the new CEO, the new man at the top, Herbert Diess, told investors at the annual shareholder meeting in Berlin that VW currently makes more cars worldwide in 4 days than Tesla did last year. And they have enormous firepower. He says this, and I quote, "By 2020, we'll offer our customers more than 25 new electric models and more than 20 plug-ins," Diess said. He continues, "In just a few years' time, across all brands and regions," and so that's everything, that's Audi, etc., "we aim to put the world's largest fleet of electric vehicles on the road." Well, he's taken over as the new boss. He came from BMW a few years ago, the man behind the i-Series, i3 and i8, and he's a big fan of electrification, so he's replaced the previous CEO of VW in the last few days and weeks, and he's already started talking about whether VW, which previously was never going to assemble their own batteries, already saying everything's on the table. VW might do their own battery packs like other manufacturers to get more control over that part of the control that Tesla has. Just fascinating. I'm sure it's not the whole reason that Tesla went down. Obviously not. But I've seen it mentioned nowhere else today that actually, if you are an investor, you'll have seen that news come across your desk today. Right, well, moving on, and we'll get to Tesla in just a second. First of all, Kia Motors took us by surprise yesterday by unveiling their pure BEV version of its Niro crossover at the 5th Electric Vehicle Expo on the resort island of, is it Jeju? Jeju. Jeju. It's Korea's second largest car maker, showing off the Niro alongside the Niro plug-in hybrid and the Soul EV. Well, the Niro is interesting because many people went gaga for the Hyundai Kona earlier this year, particularly the long-range version, 64 kilowatt hour, LG Chem Pack, thermal management, and the price isn't known still, but It won't be Tesla prices because it's a Hyundai. And now, sister Korean company Kia are in the spotlight. The Niro has the same parts as the Hyundai, or maybe same parts as the Ioniq, all good bits, and it can do 380 kilometers on a single charge of the same battery pack, the 64 kilowatt hour battery pack. The smaller one, 240 kilometers, that's the 39.2 kilowatt hour pack. Also, they're Kia prices. So it's not going to be big. You get front collision avoidance, lane keeping assist, highway driving assist systems, loads of tech in a smart, stylish looking car built in South Korea. If you can get hold of one, though. Well, last year, Kia sold 23,647 Niro hybrids and plug-in hybrid models. Kia plans to begin selling the Niro EV in their domestic market soon, sometime after July, actually, this summer. They got more than 5,000 pre-orders for the Niro EVs back in February. Hyundai and Kia, in my opinion, are going to be supply restricted for a long time. I think loads of people are going to want to get hold of these cars. People who don't necessarily want to wait for a Tesla or insist on owning a German mark, for instance. That will do for them. Big battery, 64 kilowatt hours, great tech, thermal management. You can rapid charge it all day long, and it'll do a ton of miles. Right, moving on. And CNET has posted a video of the Rimac factory. They say the Rimac C2, or C_2, promises to make 1,914 horsepower. That's 1,696 pound-feet of torque. Holy moly! Which should propel the car to 60 miles an hour in 1.85 seconds. That time restricted by the physics of the rubber, by the way, I think, at the moment, and the top speed. Rimac estimates the C_2 top speed, 258 miles an hour, again, limited by the tyre technology. While the pre-production car debuted at Geneva this year, Rimac estimates it'll be over a year before they start getting any delivered to customers. Well, I'll put the link to that CNET article in the show notes. They say the video offers a look into the Rimac factory. They explain how the Croatian electric hypercar startup came to source the wheels for its 2,000 horsepower car, and from a relatively small bespoke wheel company in sunny Vista, California. Well, the video is 6 minutes long, and if you, like me, enjoy a close-up and a super slow motion of a factory and a tool carving out some wheels, I think you're in for a treat. Well, let's get on to Tesla then. Here we go. The earnings call was entertaining for someone like me who is not invested in the company. It was hilarious. Elon was tolerant at best for the first half an hour and then lost his rag. Things that he thought were dumb to ask. He cut people off. He refused to answer any more questions. An investor call like no other. Here are some highlights, though, of what we picked out of the call, because everyone's kind of gone mad over his attitude, but there was some really interesting stuff in there. Let's stick this under a few different headings. Okay, firstly, superchargers. Something along the lines of 200 to 250 kilowatt charge speeds are going to be the Supercharger V3 network, the ultimate pack size, or the ideal pack size really, of a Tesla, and the C rating, the discharge rate, they reckon that's the kind of speed. Don't need to go the 350 kilowatt speed. Elon said it's bad for battery packs unless they're mega sized. Elon very open to other car makers using the Supercharger network for a fee. Obviously, he said they've had discussions before and nobody wants to take him up on the offer. Right, secondly, the share price. The company's share price dropped 5% on Wednesday, slid further on Thursday yesterday, and it wiped more than $3.4 billion off the value of the company. Right, the Model 3 then, set to start, the Model Y. First of all, Model Y production, set to start within 24 months, so 2020 being later than the Reuters report had suggested. It won't be at Fremont. He said they're full, falling over each other, I think was the quote. The new facilities location, TBC. Right, the semi-truck, or the semi-truck if you're listening in the US. 2,000 reserved so far. They're not actively selling it. So if someone phones up Tesla, says, can I buy some of your semi-trucks? They're saying, yeah, fine, put a deposit down, but they're not selling. They're not going out to sell it. Elon Musk said they could build a 500-mile truck today. But by the time it launches, he's now thinking it's going to have 600 miles of range. He didn't say why. It was in response to a question about Daimler saying it's against the laws of physics, making a truck that goes that far. And he said, it's not, we could do it now, do 600 miles when it's launched. Is he thinking, or I don't know, so I'm speculating, is it that the regen on a truck is so much because the truck is so heavy, they're getting more regen on these test runs than they realised? Is it because of platooning? And he's actually giving the figure because that's the second, third, fourth, fifth truck in the platoon isn't going to have to use as much energy. Is it new technology that they couldn't talk about? Well, one thing that JB Straubel did say when it was pointed out about Daimler saying that the semi was against the laws of physics, he didn't feel that they fully understood what Tesla was doing with its batteries. And he said, yes, it is possible, not because we have invented something new. I'm not sure he used that phrase, but I think he was alluding to that. Other engineers simply still haven't got their head around what we can do with our technology. Right, China is the next subject. Elon mentioned a gigafactory for China is going to be announced very soon. Every future giga is going to have car production plus battery production under one roof, not separate anymore. Cells. Now, the cells used in the Model 3 confirmed, this was not on the call, but this was on the PDF they put out, the highest energy density cells used anywhere in the world in electric vehicles. They say we've achieved this by significantly reducing cobalt content per battery pack whilst increasing nickel content and still maintaining superior thermal stability. So, Elon gave us an insight into why the robots had held up production of the Model 3 so much, including a battery pack story, a machine which was trying to automate the process of bonding some kind of fiberglass fluff, he called it, on top of the battery pack of the Model 3 to deaden the sound, which it turns out, when he went back in charge a few weeks ago, he said, do tests with and without the fluff of the noise inside the cabin. And actually, they didn't need it anyway. So now on new Model 3s, you're not getting the sound deadening fluff. Didn't make any difference. But he said the machine they were using, the robot they were trying to use, couldn't match the fluff up with the battery pack. It was putting it in the wrong place or doing it wrong and bonding it wrong. Elon dubbed this machine Flufferbot. Sadly, he had to let it go. And in a moment that is pure internet, shortly after, Flufferbot now has its own Twitter account. In a moment which reminded me also of pure Steve Jobs when he wanted Apple to be a private company and he had no patience for investors, bozo analysts he called them, although I think the analysts are a fine bunch of folk, obviously. Elon just let rip. He cut off one question and then after another, he took a 14-second pause, muted the microphone, and then said, let's go to a young YouTuber who had lined up to be on the call, and he'd found his way onto the call by some sort of campaign to get him on the call to represent all retail investors. Elon kept him on the line for 12 questions. No wonder analysts are annoyed. Their little game, their little exclusive club has been gate-crashed by a 25-year-old guy with a YouTube channel who was asking really good questions. Anyway, the analysts had a good old moan today. They don't like being upset. Bernstein said this, beneath the bizarre theatrics, we see Tesla's Q1 as in line with expectations on most metrics, including revenues, gross margins, and free cash flow. Morgan Stanley said, irrespective of the Tesla CEO's annoyance with the genre of questions he was receiving from the analyst community, we note that an important part of Tesla's success has been its relationship with the capital markets in funding its ambitious plans. JP Morgan said, we expect Tesla to fall today after CEO Elon Musk dismissed multiple analyst questions as dry and boring, including questions probing what we feel are key topics, such as the profitability of the Model 3 and the company's capital requirements. Piper Jaffray, let's have a look what they said. Well, the unorthodox behaviour sparked an after-hours sell-off, they say. We still recommend Tesla, but in the next few months, especially, we would expect significant volatility. Who else had something to say today? Well, Baird said this. Ignore the noise and focus on the metrics. Tesla reported solid results and is successfully ramping Model 3 vehicle and battery production. Nomura said, No shareholder wants to see a CEO lose his patience over important and mundane questions. And finally, Evercore ISI said, wow is the only way to describe the Tesla call, which was unlike anything we've heard before. Right, okay, let's move on. A couple more stories then. Finally, we will go to Sweden, and Zachary over at Clean Technica has picked up on a story about a new tax system in Sweden. It's coming in July, and it's going to penalise gas and diesel vehicles, whilst plug-ins get a financial boost. In the first 3 years of owning an ICE car based on CO2 emissions, Sweden has 6.1% new vehicle registrations being plug-ins, the rest being ICE cars. However, they're going to be much more highly taxed. The previous 5-year exemption to vehicle tax for EVs is now completely removed, so I read that as being EVs will always be exempt from vehicle tax, and zero-emission vehicles now get a bonus of up to 25% of the list price. That goes up to a maximum of $6,700 for something like the Nissan Leaf, a pure BEV. Something like a BMW i3 range extender. In Sweden, you'd get the equivalent of about $5,500 as a bonus. And finally, the last story today, a bit of solar. Hasn't always got to be about cars. We like a bit of solar and storage. First up is Enphase. Enphase are makers of micro inverters. And it particularly interests me because I don't have solar at the moment. I don't know if you do, or you're interested in getting some solar. I don't want to go all in, though, and just cover my roof in panels. Firstly, I would want to cash flow the system, and I haven't got like 10 grand lying around. And I would want to build up with some on the garage, first of all, because it's south-facing. But then I want to add some to the house, and I want to do it, as I can afford to do it. I like the idea of Enphase because each microinverter attaches to the back of the panel, and then you get grid-ready AC power out of each panel. Well, Enphase's latest results were 70 million of revenue in Q1 18. That's an increase. They're looking more robust. Their cash balance doubled, largely due to some private equity investment in the quarter. They shipped 611,000 microinverters in the last year. The new IQ7, their latest model microinverter, is now available in the US and the UK, soon Germany and Austria. Green Tech Media say this. Unlike the rest of its inverters, the IQ8's platform is going to be designed to support both grid-tied and off-grid applications. And it's all supported by the company's Ensemble software. Oh yeah, of course you can log on and see all of that stuff online as well. So yeah, I've been looking into Enphase for a little while now. Fascinating company. Good to see they're doing well. Well, I would love to spread the word about electric cars, and if you can, please do share this with somebody who you can think of, maybe right now, who might just be interested in the podcast. Listen to every previous episode. I put them on iTunes, put them on Google Play, Spotify, YouTube gets the audio, TuneIn, SoundCloud, iHeart Radio Podcasts emailed me yesterday. So we've added you to our platforms. If you like to use iHeart in North America, can't get it anywhere else unless you're using a VPN. I never use a VPN, not for anything. And the blog, evnewsdaily.com. Remember to subscribe. That means you haven't got to think about downloading the show. You get it first and free and automatically. And it would mean a lot if you could take 2 minutes to write a little review on whatever platform you download the podcast on. Come and say hi on Facebook, Twitter and LinkedIn. Just search EV News Daily. Have a wonderful day. And I'll catch you tomorrow.